Today's episode was sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people. From business to web development to art and productivity, Skillshare can help you take the next step in your learning journey. Personally, we've been loving Thomas Frank's Productivity Masterclass. Explore your creativity at skillshare.com/Swisspreneur. The first 1,000 people to use our link will get a free trial of the Skillshare Premium membership. Again, that's skillshare.com/Swisspreneur. Enjoy the show.
Timing is the most important thing, really. You can launch anything, anytime. If it's the wrong timing, it doesn't work.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and hands-on learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Leif, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
It's nice being here.
You are the co-founder of Fluid Focus. That's the company behind FocusWater, vitamin water that is perfectly the alternative drink, basically, standing between a boring sip of water and the overwhelmingly sweet fizzy drinks that you know from Coca-Cola and others. So we want to talk about your story, how you built up that company and then eventually sold it. We want to start with your personal background. You studied economies and international relations at the University of St. Gallen, and then also had plans to work for the UN. But eventually you ended up at Red Bull. So what went wrong, or better said, what went right with your plan to work for the UN and then you ended up at Red Bull?
Well, I had finished studies and I was not yet really looking for a job, but I was starting to look for it. Mm-hmm. And a friend called me up. He was working at the ad agency. He was account manager for McDonald's back in the days at the Lee Burnett agency. And he told me, Leif, there's a Red Bull is coming to Switzerland, finally. And they look for someone to do the promotions, to organize those Mini Coopers with the sampling girls. And they look someone to do the summer job. So I thought to myself, I had known Red Bull already. We drank it illegally in Zurich since the early 90s. And I said, oh, that's kind of cool. Could be a cool summer job. I do that for 6 months until I find a real job. Mm-hmm. So I went on doing that and got stuck for 11 years.
Wow, you were employee number 16 at Red Bull. Sounds crazy today. So you were really there from the early days. What was so attractive to then join Red Bull for the longer time, despite just the summer job? What attracted you to that position?
Well, the thing was with Red Bull, it was also a startup back in the days. Mateschitz, of course, he had already started up his company in Austria. He had started in 86 or 87, I think. And he had already gone through a lot of startup difficulties. By the time then he had survived and he had made some business in Austria, and we started in Switzerland, and Germany and Hungary were the first three markets. We were one guy in Hungary, one in Switzerland, me, and two in Germany, and then a few in Austria. So the whole thing was a startup project, really. But by then, a well-founded, already successful in Austria startup project. And so that was really ultimately what attracted me to the whole thing. There was something going off there. Mm-hmm. It started up, it had a good dynamic, and it grew rapidly. It was a fantastic time to be joining a company like Red Bull, because it was the very beginning.
Absolutely.
After a while, when it grew bigger and grew more corporate, it grew less interesting for me, because I like, obviously, small startup structures.
Yeah. You also mentioned that Red Bull was illegal in Switzerland, mainly because of the high taurine level that was in the drink, I think, or the caffeine level on top of that. And you also said, I think, in an interview that this was actually one of the best marketing boosts that Red Bull experienced. Can you walk us a bit through how that actually helped Red Bull to then gain new customers?
I've got to clarify, Red Bull was not illegal, it was just not permitted yet, which is not quite the same. And the reason was, as you said, the caffeine levels mainly. Coca-Cola had set the level of caffeine in soft drinks. The legal level was just set by Coca-Cola, and Red Bull, as we know, has double amount of caffeine. Right. So the law had to be adjusted to the new level, which everyone knew was going to happen, but then it finally happened. And it happened in '94, in fall '94. But before that, the end of the '80s, in Austria, it had also been illegal. And then it got legalized, or it also got permit in Austria. And for some reason, it got permit in Austria, not necessarily as a mixer, but it took off also as a mixer, the vodka Red Bull. So the whole word with this magic beverage that is a bit illegal and dangerous spread quickly. And especially in the eastern part of Switzerland, lots of kids drove over to Austria on the weekend and bought cases of Red Bull and sold them in the streets of Zurich even. I remember my first Red Bull that I drank, we came out of a club, and in front of the club there was like, as usual, it's all kind of dealers, and one offered a gram of hash for 10 francs, the other one some pills for 10 francs, the third one had a Red Bull for 10 francs, So we said with friends that, well, let's try something else for a change, And then we bought the Red Bull for 10 francs, and we drank a sip, and we passed it around like a joint, and say, oh, you feel something? Yeah, I think so. It's pretty cool. So that was the hype, and that was in 90 or 91. And that went on then until the beginning of 95 for every weekend. And it just grew in the party scene, in illegal bars, and everywhere you found Red Bull. And I still think that's hype. Then when it finally got to Switzerland, it took off like a rocket. And without that hype having been built by itself for 5 years, it would never have taken off. And it's a hype that you could never have planned or bought with marketing dollars. It just really happened. The best thing that could happen to us, to Red Bull.
Yeah, that's a great story. I think just to put that into perspective, how everything started. And then you also mentioned that, it got a bit more corporate and therefore also a bit more uninteresting for you to work there. You just stayed for like almost 11 years. What was that like? Like, what disturbed you? What was not like a good fit for you? I think in the prep call you mentioned to me that you didn't like to have a boss or to sort of work for someone else. So walk us a bit through what then led you to leave Red Bull after almost 11 years.
Well, at Red Bull, I always had a good time and always had a boss also, so I can work with bosses. But I think that the difference is if you have the development of any successful company is that you start, you grow, you have the early stage and then the growth stage, and at some point the growth flattens, and there is different requirements to keep the company growing or keep the high volume up so it doesn't go back. So with the size of the company, structures have to be installed, which is normal. Processes have to be installed. Controlling has to be installed. Number crunches come in, and it's more a maintaining a level. Or if you compare it to an architect, it's the different people pulling up the walls and setting up the roof than decorating the house. So I feel more comfortable as to building the walls and to the early stage of company development, and because maybe I'm not a very good number cruncher myself, I don't like analyzing data for days and finding the little detail. I like the bigger schemes or bigger ways. Mm-hmm.
And how did that feel? Were you also getting a bit frustrated when these number crunching tasks were taking over your daily work life, basically? Or how did that feel back in the day?
It's just that, of course, again, with a growing company, and it's totally normal, and my bosses were always good. But of course, you spend more time in any big structures with the planning, reporting, politics. And that's just natural. When you're bigger, you have to plan. When you are more people who want the same or they have different objectives, you need the whole politics, and then of course you do the reporting. So if you start in a fast-growing company, when you start planning in April, you finish planning in mid-December. The plan is then sealed for the next year. And then you grow so fast that mid-February, the whole plan you worked on for 8 months is already obsolete. That happened all the time because you grew so fast. So then let's stop planning at some point, because the growth that we're having, like now with FocusWater, is not plannable. Of course, you can try to put in numbers and do statistics and all that, but there's no point really. Or I don't like it. Let's put it that way. Not that I don't like. I do like planning, but I prefer fast growth than long planning.
Makes sense. So in 2005, you left Red Bull, and I also wonder, as employee number 16, you probably also were incentivized to stay at the company for longer. So my question is, didn't you also leave a lot of money on the table by leaving Red Bull?
No, I did not get incentivized. I mean, Mateschitz has always been very, he was always very clear on none of the employees ever got any shares.
Okay.
He has everything. I mean, it's known that 51% of the company it belongs to a Thai mother company now. And so I guess he gave away more than he wanted long before I started in 95. So he had already gone through that. He didn't want to give away more. So as employee, you are employee. You had a great time. We built up the most fantastic success story in beverages ever, I suppose. I mean, Coca-Cola has a good story too, but it didn't happen as quickly. No, the Red Bull story was very fast, very, very much. So we had a lot of fun. It was great times. And when I came back then after 4 years in the US, we moved back with a family from LA to Zurich. And they offered a job in Fuschl at the headquarters in Austria. But I didn't want to go there for the same reasons I said before. The report, the politics and Fuschl wasn't exactly, you don't go, I didn't want to leave LA to end up in Fuschl either.
Fair point.
So it was good. I thought it was perfect time to leave. 11 years was a good time, a long time. I want to do something else. Red Bull has also involved. I had evolved. It was time to just separate, but no hard feelings. Everything is cool.
So it was more like a natural evolvement, basically.
Exactly. It was just time was ready and it felt right, and I never regretted to have left. Of course, sometimes I had a hardship with the startups I was in. I thought, oh, maybe life would have been easier, nicer if I had stayed. But then again, I don't regret at all. And it was all friendly and good, and I still look back with a lot of joy to my Red Bull days.
Great. And yeah, talking about startups, until 2011, you have been involved in two different startups, both in some way related to the beverage industry, but none of those actually ended up working out big time. And when we did the prep call, you mentioned to me that you actually had so many learnings that you took away from that period of these two startups. So please share a bit more about what you took away from the lessons when you were working on your own startups during that time.
Well, generally speaking, as I said in the prep call also, is that I really believe you learn more or you learn faster by mistakes made than success stories. To surf the Red Bull wave, I mean, Red Bull worked very well, but it wasn't because of me only, for sure not even because of me at all, maybe, but we did a good job, but the Red Bull wave was rolling and we were surfing it and we made the wave look better. And it was a perfect times, and I think a lot of people did a good job to build up the company. People at Red Bull still do a good job keeping it big, which is a whole different job also. They're fantastic marketeers, fantastic people. But then the two startups, which were much shorter, the first startup I was in was 1.5 years, and the second one about 2 years, taught me different things and taught me how hard it is when you don't have to stay with the metaphor of the wave, you don't have a wave pushing you to still move forward. That's much harder. And it taught me that to avoid some basic mistakes. I don't know if you know the two startups. The first was a well-funded, two corporate guys, with big experience, creating a new energy drink, a natural biology, organic energy drink, and which was good to, of course, the Red Bull users and the new lifestyle of health and sustainability. The problem was it was done for the new lifestyle health and sustainability and the Red Bull users, but it didn't really hit anyone. So the Red Bull energy users, they thought it was too healthy, too taste weird taste. And the people the Lohas, as we call them in the beginning of the century, they thought the category energy drinks was not interesting for them. So at the end of the day, we had a product that was perfect for both, but no one liked it because it was which really was, I think the positioning of the product was just wrong at the time. We underestimated it, and it's really something that I think before you start spending a lot of money, and we then spent a lot of money. We had big investors. We had a high burn rate, and in any business, I think it's really important in the beginning to by the cash flow. Everyone knows cash flow is the most important, single most important thing.
It's the oxygen of your company,
it's
basically.
The oxygen of the company. And until then, I wasn't aware, because at Red Bull, we had so much oxygen all the time. It was just unreal, It was investing millions and try to invest them well into good marketing schemes. But the oxygen itself was never really an issue. And here it was different. And especially what I think lots of companies do wrong, they burn a lot of oxygen or so they fuel on things that they could have seen it's not going to work. So basically to first do small steps, create small fires, see if the fire really burns, if it burns sustainably, and if there's enough wood and then put the fuel on the fire to make the forest burn, so to speak, again, talking in a metaphor,
Sure.
To start small fires, and the small fires are cheap, but if they burn without just gas, then you have something to work with. If a fire only burns because of the gas, then as soon as the gas is burned up, the whole thing is gone, and there's no wood to keep it sustainable. So that's, I think, something that we were burning too much, too fast. We're wrong. We were too arrogant. We thought we knew what we're doing. We had done Red Bull. The other guy had done other things. We were highly decorated, successful managers starting a venture. The investors believed us. It all sounded really cool, but it totally flopped. And that was just like, whoa! How could that happen? How could we not see that? And it was the arrogance towards the market, or the arrogance that showed us that. And being humble, any startup, the failures teach you humbleness. And I think it's important to be and stay humble with every business you start.
Fully agree. How did you then recover from that failure? Some people might say, that was it, I will never go back into the startup land again. You did the opposite. You then, joined the second company and also worked there. So how did you then, just like say, hey, I'm not giving up. I want to learn from what went wrong and still continue in the startup world.
Well, as I said, even the whole Red Bull story was somewhat a little bit of a startup too, and small structures, fast development, little controlling because of the fast growth. As long as you grow fast, you don't need any controlling. It doesn't matter. It's growing. So it's much you always look for that then. And so after the Red Bull times, I had 11 great years. I wanted basically to replicate the same feeling, but on my own. And I wasn't financially too involved in that company. I had worked 3 years at the agency and then joined my ex-boss at Red Bull, who founded the company, who had raised all the money, who then eventually burned all the money too. But I then went to join him, and but as an employee, I had some shares in there, but I didn't take a big loss personally.
Okay.
So it was just over when the money was out, the oxygen was burnt and no cans sold. We got into co-op. We were really, everything was right. There was just one problem. The consumer didn't dig the product, and that we could go so far, raise all the money and do everything right and get into co-op even, and then realize the consumer doesn't like it. That was just still unbelievable that it could happen, but it happened.
How would you avoid that today, to really think about how can you get the customer feedback and get more certainty that the customer will actually buy that product before you invest heavily, raise funds and go into co-op, to actually avoid that sort of mistake? Is there any trick or anything that you would do differently on that regard?
Well, if you have the time and the money, you do more research. about the product. I mean, you test it with the panels or whatever a little bit, but I'm more, you have to walk around with your product and with your idea, and also especially with the beverages, with the content, you have people try. And what we really did then too, besides being arrogant, or we were also arrogant enough to not hear feedbacks openly, you know. In German, you say you lie into your pocket. Basically, you hear what you want to hear, and you don't hear what you should hear, you know. People tell you, say, hey, do you like it? No one's going to say, no, it sucks. So most people don't say that because they're friendly, or they don't want to give you, they don't want to like rain on your parade, so to speak. So they don't tell you openly, look, this is not good, you know, forget it. You know, they say, but you say, you should, what do you mean? You should really try to look for the negative, and because you often don't get honest opinions openly. You know? So I think be more critical, and listen to the negative voices, and be more, really dig for negative stuff, to be sure there isn't any. Not just like everything looks nice, oh yeah, good. And you know there's a tube underneath.
True. But I think this is also especially true for Switzerland, because people don't want to offend other people. They want to have a good relationship, so they're probably not going to tell you the things that they don't like up front. So you really have to think about the setup, how you get that feedback.
Possibly, yeah. You know, in America even more, I would say people are friendlier, you know, they would never say anything that offends you. Right. I think the Swiss are more direct, they would say it. Maybe the Germans are even more direct, they just give you the shit right away.
Yeah.
But you just have to be humble and open to, and be open to negative feedback, and not glorify your baby. Your baby is the most beautiful in the world, but then everybody else thinks it's ugly. You know, that should not happen. You know?
Yeah. So now let's move forward to 2011, when you founded Fluid IMD with your co-founder Konrad. First of all, I would like to know how you met your co-founder Konrad Weiss, and why he was the perfect co-founder.
Well, he wasn't, but he went well anyway. So, no, we were studying together. We were both in St. Gallen. We studied, not that we didn't study the same, we didn't study together, but we lived together in Wege, in how do you say that in English?
A shared apartment.
A shared apartment for a year about. We were at a lot of parties together, we drank a lot of beer together, we did a lot of things together. But then I hadn't seen him for a few years. And the second startup we didn't talk about now, the caps, he was investing into that. And he was investing into that under the condition that I would start there as a CEO, and I would start there as a CEO if he invested. So we got into that project together, and that's how we came together again. That whole project exploded because of fraud allegations. You know, the owner or the guy, he was interesting story. Also, I learned, you know, that the due diligence, before you go into something, really look at things, because there's lots of guys out there, they're just not honest. You know, that's if you're a uniquely honest person, it surprises you that people can just be so dishonest. You know, so the guy had basically patented the whole system, but on his own name and not on the company. So he had 3 investors that put in $1 million each, and the company was totally worthless, and he wouldn't put the patents, which was the only value of the company, into the company. So anyway, so that whole thing went south, and then I had always already, as before I started with IXO, the energy drink, at the agency, I always thought about creating a company. I then wanted to call it LSD, Lifestyle Distribution. So that the theory was that if you have a good product and if you distribute it at the right spot, the distribution itself makes marketing and it creates sales, and you don't have to do any marketing anymore, because the product can grow on its own into wherever it grows, because it's well placed. And so that idea had been around for a long time. So after the whole cap thing with the fraud thing happened, Conrad and I told him, well, let's start a new company. I know he he invested quite some money. The thing didn't go well, but it's not dead yet either. So, it's not lost money, but still. And I had the opportunity to take over the distribution for a smoothie in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's here, my smoothie. Well, it's a smoothie in a Tetra Pak. Oh, here it is.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I know that one. Nice.
So we could take over the distribution of that one. It's a Swedish girl that founded it. She lives in Switzerland, and I knew her. And they were taking the whole European operations out of Switzerland back to Sweden. And they looked for somebody to take care of distribution in Switzerland. Right. So we started off as a distribution company. I told the Conrad, look, there's a product. They sell 500,000 of those. Mm-hmm. There's a running business. Let's just take that and build on that. Sure. So we start with smoothie, and we make a distribution company that imports and sells products in Switzerland, creative products. So creative meaning natural and functional products. Those two a little bit, So next to a Swiss fridge 10 years ago, there was still only Coca, Fanta, Sprite, Rivella, Red Bull, water, iced tea, orange juice maybe. And there was nothing else, So there was very few beverages, and so we started importing. The fluid IMD the IMD stands for Innovation, Marketing, Distribution. So back to the lifestyle distribution. So it all kind of came together. Mm-hmm. We started to import those Marley Melamood, a relaxation drink. We had some beverages that were hangover cures. Mm-hmm. We had some vitamin infused beverages, smoothies, whatever. So we had a few beverages, and after my time in the US, when I worked for Red Bull, mm-hmm. I said we have to have a vitamin water. It's very important because the vitamin water in the US is huge. 2007, Coke acquired Glaceau for 4.2 billion. It's somewhere for 4 billion. So the Glaceau people, here it is. Yes. This one got acquired by Coke for 4 billion. I thought we need a vitamin water. So I was talking back then to our friends from Sweden, to those guys. And to import the Swedish product in 2011, I was talking to them because.
So you were talking to import the vitamin well water from Sweden.
So I had a choice between either I do vitamin well as an import product, mm-hmm. or a beverage distributor in Switzerland said, "Hey, there's those FocusWater guys in Switzerland, and they're two bankers. They don't know what they're doing, but they have a brand, and it's not bad, and maybe you should talk to them." So I talked to the two bankers, and they had found that. The original FocusWater that looked like this, and so they found the company in 2009. Mm-hmm. They basically failed. They got it into Migrolino and they got it into Manor. And I remember having drunk this also, and I saw it in a gas station first time. I thought, oh, cool! Finally, vitamin water in Switzerland, because I drank this product a lot when I was in the US. Because you can't drink 2 liters of Red Bull every day, even though I drank a lot of Red Bull over 11 years. So I took a sip of this product and I spit it out. It was disgusting, and then it was really undrinkable, full of sucralose. It tastes really not good. And so I met those guys finally, and they had more or less failed because the product wasn't good, So we then, instead of importing and distributing those guys, we made a deal with those guys and said, okay, we take over the brand. You stay in a little bit because you founded the brand. We take it over, the baby. We adopt the baby. We make heart surgery. Basically, we change everything that's inside. We had a new content producer. Which through my cap business that I did before, I got to know those Döller, the producers of the content. Mm-hmm. So actually, that failure with that startup before led to the know-how that I needed to do this. So it all kind of happens, Yeah. Anyway, so we created new content with no sucralose, which was well balanced and all that, and a new label, and we relaunched this one. Instead of importing and doing this one. Those guys came 5 years later, but of course I never regretted either. It was a good decision. It's better to have your own brand So we then became, the vitamin water worked really well. Unlike some of the relaxation drinks or hangover cures or whatever. So we basically slowly shifted from a import distribution business that was planned into a own brand, own marketing company, you know.
Right.
And the whole import products, we still do this, but not really. Or we didn't.
It's not the focus anymore.
The focus totally switched.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, that wasn't intended. You know, we were really trying to import and distribute, and we became own brand company.
You see it in the name, right? Distribution was the real focus at the beginning.
Yeah.
So let me just focus on two decisions that you made. So first, you decided to not import Vitamin Well, and instead decided to then go for FocusWater and actually make a partnership with them and you know, launch that in Switzerland or relaunch that in Switzerland. Yeah. Why did you decide to stick to your own product then instead of importing Vitamin Well? Like, what were the deal terms bad, or what led you to that decision?
No, but I mean, the being an importer or distributor is always, it's tough, you know, to launch a beverage in the marketplace, in any marketplace, because the fridges are all full. If you want to get into any fridge, someone else has to get out, you know, and the people that get out, they usually are there longer and they have more money than you have with new products. So it's always hard. And unlike you really hit the sweet spot with and the product has its really own dynamic. So I would say a Red Bull distributor that started in the late 90s in Europe. There was so much dynamic in the brand that you could, as a distributor, just take it on and basically surf the wave would push you there too. But usually that's not how it works. Usually it's like you have to pedal hard. And so if you go through the ordeal of building a brand or a product into a market, which is a lot of work, it's better it's your own than having a brand owner because you thank you very much, now we do it ourselves. So basically the decision was like those guys had sold to Coke. The plan was also, well, if you have our own brand, maybe one day we can sell it. If we build this one big, we make maybe a lot of money, but we'll never have anything to sell.
Yeah, you don't have any upside, right?
There's no upside, exactly. Yeah. Even though the guy who does that now in Switzerland, I mean, they sell a lot, and I'm sure he makes good money, you know, no question.
But no upside.
Yeah,
got it.
Before we continue with the show, we'd like to introduce you to Swisspreneurs' main partner, Clara Business, the digital all-in-one solution for small businesses. Managing internal processes manually and on paper wastes an incredible amount of time. That's why Clara digitizes everything, allowing you to focus on what really matters, your core business. Go to clara.ch to find out how your business administration can be simpler, faster, and more efficient. Again, that's clara.ch. And now, on with the show.
And then the decision to, you know, find a deal, strike a deal with the existing FocusWater versus creating a new brand and a new product from scratch. Why did you decide to use and build on top of an existing product that you spit out and didn't really seem to like?
Yeah, that was a mistake, actually. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. Well, mistake. The brand is good. FocusWater is a cool brand. They created that, and I still think it's a great brand. But the main reason, I mean, we could also have created an own brand that is cool. Maybe not as cool as FocusWater, but something could have been thought of. The reason why we went to FocusWater because they had distribution they were in Migrolino and they were in Manor, and there was already like when we made a deal, there was already 250, 300,000 bottles in sales. Okay. So we thought, okay, we can start then with a basis. And when we made the deal, I didn't like the product. As I said, I spit it out, and we changed everything. But a lot of people had already tried it and they had sold in, but there was no repurchasing rate.
Sure, so, because people didn't like the product, right?
Most people didn't like the product, and I underestimated that.
Yeah.
So not only were we, so what we thought was a good thing, we were in Manor and Migrolino, turned out to be a bad thing because we got kicked out of Manor and Migrolino not short after we made a deal, and to get back into something where you got kicked out before, it took me 5 years before I got back into Migrolino. So the whole what we thought was a good thing, it turned out to be not such a good thing. Besides the fact that we of course had to give away all the shares. They still had shares in the company.
Sure.
But by the time we had still made it, and after the heart surgery and the new product, and we had convinced everybody, look, it's new, it's good now, and blah blah. By that time, it has grown too big, and we were already going with Focus, so then it was too late to change.
Makes sense.
So that was would have been better to do something new.
Basically, you did all the work that you would have to do from scratch anyways, right? Except for the distribution channels, but there you basically took 1 step forward and 2 steps back.
Exactly. That was a mistake that, it worked out anyway, but
Sure.
it's stupid to look back and say, but that I should have done differently.
It's also a great story to share now, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also wondering about the deal that you struck with the FocusWater people. So did you just give them any shares as an upside in the new company, or did you pay them any cash, or how did that deal look like?
No, they all to the end, till the exit with Rella, they kept some shares in the company. Because they were the founder, they created the brand from the beginning, and
but there was no cash involved, or not much cash.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because then that's also an important deal part, right? Because if you had to pay a lot of cash, and then you make 2 steps back in the distribution part, what you originally wanted to buy, that would have been incredibly frustrating.
They gave us distribution because we were more competent. They didn't have time or the competence to deal with it. Very nice people, very good people, still friends. But they stayed in the company, and they, of course, they had a nice ride. And despite their failings in the beginning, we made it. And then it was too late to say, but hey, guys, we made it, not you. Sure. So they said, well, it's still our baby. And then we had some fights there. You know,
okay.
Between they claiming it's still our baby, and we said, yeah, but we adopted it. Yeah, but it's not yours. And so we had to get together for the good sake. And at the end, it all turned out well. But they also got a fair chunk for their original startup. They also got well paid for that.
Sure. How did you come up with the share split? Like, how many shares did you decide to give them for the original idea and the brand and the distribution channel, and how much did you still keep yourself, approximately?
I don't want to say, but we had, Conrad and I had, basically we were 4 big shareholders. That's Conrad and I, and those 2 parties.
Okay.
There are always 2 people. And we all together, we had like 90% of the company. Mm-hmm. And of course, we have more than half of that.
Okay, yeah, that's important.
We have more than 50% of the company.
Okay.
So we could decide, but they had a serious chunk still.
Okay, yeah. Got it. So now let's also look at these early days. You finished the heart surgery, you developed or changed the product, relaunched it, but you still didn't really have a huge marketing budget as you were used to from Red Bull. So how did you market the product in the early days to, generate the awareness and get the brand out there to generate sales?
I think the only marketing is, if you don't have marketing budget and you want to sell a product, is the product. That is the marketing, and the product has to look good in the fridge. The product has to be appealing. I guess ours could have been better, but back then it worked. So whatever.
Don't fix it if it ain't broke, right?
Exactly. And so it's really to get out the product. We were convinced that, and what we're lucky, again, or lucky or not, whatever, but the taste we developed, the products we developed were really tasty. So they were really convincing. So if you have something that is attractive enough that people try it, because people are, even in Switzerland, open to try new things. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, and they really do that. But then to change the habit is really hard, But if then they try and they drink and they like it, and then they start reading, oh, okay. Oh, it's made in Switzerland. Oh, cool. Oh, it's got little calories. It's low in calories. Cool. Oh, natural flavors, all natural. Oh, vitamins. Wow, 100%. And they start reading. They start finding.
It gets better and better.
Exactly. and now it was good, and it was for lots of right reasons. So they buy it again. So I think we were really what we had from the beginning, a high repurchasing rate. Somebody tries it somewhere, he sticks with it. Oh, this is good. I like it. I buy it again. And he tells it to somebody, and that one tells it to somebody. So the word of mouth. So it was only, I mean, that's hard enough, a thing of getting the product out there and get it available to people so they could try and they could talk about it. And of course, we used a bit events, we sponsored events, we gave away product only. We didn't sponsor any cash. We gave away product to events, to people, to opinion leaders. We did that marketing, below the line, the low cost below the line marketing. You know? But the main thing is really to build up distribution, get into fridges, and then once you are in the fridge, make sure you'll never leave that fridge again. And that was lucky that the product did most of the job. But of course, also to get into the fridge, if you know the product works and once it's in the fridge, it's going to stay there, you can also invest a little bit to get into the fridge. Okay. You know? If I go back to the IXO thing, the natural energy drink, you know, we pay a lot of money and then it did not work. You know, that's stupid. And of course, you know, you pay to get in and you get kicked out and you never see the fridge again.
So here you did the opposite. You had a good product that sold and you spent less money to actually get in.
Exactly.
Nice. What helped you to get into these fridges? But were there any tactics that really worked to get you in there and to win the trust of the distributors?
Well, every interview I made and the buyers, they don't want to try. You send them samples, you know, they put them on the side, you know, they don't try them, you know. They get too many samples and in their words, you know, I've gotten 260 energy drinks here. You think I would try all of them? I already don't like the first one, you know, and all the Red Rhino and Blue Dog and Pink Cow or whatever, you know. And so you send them samples, they don't try. So I insist always to get meeting, and I have something new and it's good. And in the beginning it was hard, you know. There's so many beverage startups and there's lots of good products out there and good startups with good products. And there's just too many products, too much supply, and too little buyers, too little. So it's really a buyer's market. They decide, no. Sure. And 1 out of 10 gets meetings. But I could insist my way to meeting. And then I always force the buyers to drink. Well, look, you have to try. I made my little speech, my little PowerPoint thingy, and then here's the moment we have to try. And no, thanks. I only drink water. No. You have to try. I walk right out if you don't try. And it's interesting, you know, you can explain all the vitamins and the Swissness and natural and modern and whatever. And they listen and it's like it doesn't really sink in. But the moment the beverage go through here, it also sinks into the head, you know, it's like the coin falls down in the machine. You know, they understand. And that's amazing. Really, every time I looked at them, they drink and they listen differently because they get it. If you could explain something between soft drink and water, it makes sense. Sure. But it only really, really makes sense when you have tried it, you know. And that was always interesting. And most people like it. And the buyer, they're also just humans. If they like something, they're more likely to bring it on and try it. Oh, I want to try it. And if they like you as a person and the product and on the money side, it's all right. Then he is willing to maybe open a door.
This really reminds me a bit of the On Shoes story. We also had them on our show, and it was super hard to get people to try their shoes and to get meetings. And then they did events where people actually had to try them on and walk in them and run in them. And then the magic happened. They felt the difference, and then they placed an order. Mm-hmm. So this is like a very, of course, completely different product, but a very similar setup of how you were able to convince people you had the better product. Mm-hmm. You just had to get it in front of them and let them try it, and then you could take it from there.
Exactly, and the trial is very physical reaction that happened, you know, and it's not a mental thing. But you think, I mean, all the reasons were on the table. Anybody could understand it, but still, it's to try. It's a whole different angle.
Right. And in what way was also the timing? You mentioned the wave from Red Bull before, the right product, right timing, right place. In what way were you also able to better plan or at least understand the wave that you were riding with FocusWater? Because the timing is also a crucial part that you cannot influence, but you can try to better understand it. So how do you go about that one?
I think timing is the most important thing, really. You can launch anything, anytime. If it's the wrong timing, it doesn't work.
True.
No matter how much money you throw at a problem. But I mean, we know those vitamin water guys. They had founded in '97, I think.
Well, that's early.
And I was in the US from 2002 to 2006, or roughly. And I drank them all the time, and really every day. And in the beginning, they were hard to find in LA. And after 4 years, when I left, they were everywhere. Mm-hmm. And by the time Coca-Cola bought them a year later, I think they sold 300 million in the US. So Coca-Cola paid 13 times revenue.
Wow.
Wow, yeah. Everybody thought it's insane.
That's what you get in software startups.
Yeah, exactly. That's insane. Everyone said they're never going to recuperate that money. That's just too much. How are they going to pay for that? And if you go now into the Coke investors websites, today it's considered to be a successful investment. It's interesting, despite that insane price. Anyway, so there was that happening. Coke had bought them 2007. So in the beverage industry, it was not a secret anymore. Those vitamin waters, and many trends come from the US, and then they come to Northern Europe, and then they come down here. Mm-hmm. So the Vitamin Well, they had launched in 2008, I think, just a year after and the FocusWater original guys, they had launched in 2009, and so the things were happening, and no one had done it really yet, and that's why that was surprising thing. Things were happening. Everybody could see it coming, but no one had done really anything about it. There was one guy, the Mojo Vitamin Water, is one in Switzerland. Okay. He was out there before us, but we just went out there too. And a long time we were underestimated. The big ones, the Cokes, they never launched their product. The Rivella, a different story, but all the big ones didn't launch any vitamin water. So I was really left alone in a niche that no one took seriously until it was almost too late, and then when Coke came, we were already in the shelves. Nice. Or those guys came. So it was just the timing was right, but you could see it coming. Everybody could see it coming. And the big ones, they didn't take it too seriously, or Switzerland wasn't important enough for them, to really focus on that. And so, yeah.
I think that's also a perfect transition to the opponents and supporters part. So the big competitors, the big, beverage brands like Rivella you mentioned in Switzerland or Coca-Cola, they didn't really take that seriously. Why not in Switzerland?
I don't know what they're thinking, really. Especially Coke. I mean, Coke, they had launched this product, and in 17, I think, or 18. In 18, they launched it in Migros. And sales were actually good, and Migros was happy with them, Okay. And for some reason, they pulled it out of the market again. There was a pan-European decision. They had tried to launch this in all over Europe, sure, yeah. And they failed. I want to say they launched in France, in Germany. They had met success in Northern Europe, in Sweden, and in the UK, but not enough. But they basically, after a few years, they got their ass kicked by Vitamin Well, and in the Nordics. And so apparently it was just a European decision. We pulled back, and the only country where it worked, Switzerland, was then just, it doesn't matter, it's too small. Sure. So that was then Migros called us, and do you still want to deliver your FocusWater? We said, what's wrong with you? That never happens. That was after Coke told them we can't deliver this one anymore. So it was just also a coincidence, Yeah. So not only they didn't come in, they were in, that they pulled out again.
So they actually brought you a very important client in the end.
Yeah. Yeah,
nice.
Absolutely, exactly. And it's just about being there. And if we hadn't knocked at the door 100 times, then they would have called us. So it's like everything. You have to be lucky to stumble over something. But if you don't walk around, you never stumble over anything. True. So you have to just be there and keep being there, and eventually things fall into place, you know. Yeah. So it's luck, but of course you prepare the luck to happen by just walking around.
Right. So that's then how you could get the timing right? By consistently going after, knocking on the door and contacting them over and over again. And if the timing is right, they just lost their supplier, then they will call you.
Yeah, or I mean, sometimes the buyers, it's insane to how they make their decisions, you know. You talk to a guy for 5 years and come on, we've been successful, we sell there, not interesting. The guy goes with his kids on vacation, they go to the US and they see all the vitamin water there. And they, oh, I was on vacation, great, yeah, I think we need your product now. Says, yeah, I mean, really, I mean, it's individual decisions based on personal stuff. There's no objectivity, you know. That's the insane thing. And you don't know when the market might be ready. A long time ago it was, but the buyer has to be ready. And mostly the buyers are not the most, let's say, modern or forward people. You know, they want to do what works. They don't want to. They're lazy, like everybody is. So now you don't want to waste your time with something that's not going to work. Sure. And, you know, it's a hassle. You have to kick out somebody else. It's all hard, and so don't change anything. Yeah. Never change a winning team. You know. That's
true.
So, but then they go to the US and they see it, and yeah, we need it now. I think I saw it. It's everywhere. Yeah, really. It's really funny.
But I think the key message here really is you cannot influence the decision. It's also very emotional and shaped by factors that you cannot control. But you have to consistently be there, reach out to them, stay in touch, stay in contact, and then when the timing is right, you can make the deal.
Help them to make the decision, help to give them the basis to make the decision when they are ready, for whatever reason also. Sure. They also, the buyers, they have background company interests of their company that we don't know, you know. They have deals, they have maybe a deal with Coke, whatever, you don't know. You just don't know, and there's no point fighting against that, you know. You just have to be there for when the moment is right, that it's right.
Absolutely. And then you also mentioned Vitamin Well a couple times, and then they also entered the Swiss market. So basically, huge competitor from Sweden, where your roots are, basically your family roots, enter Switzerland. What did that to your business?
Well, at first I was really pissed off that they just came in with a lot of money and they got the distribution at Coop, Pronto and Valora, which is a big kiosk again, which I had tried to get for forever, and they just walk in and walk right past. They were also a startup company from Sweden, and they had sold to a big venture capital guys, I don't know what they're called. And I think with that, those venture guys, they want to probably, the plan is they want to make it big and sell it to Coke eventually or something, you know. So they really had the deep pockets. They had a lot of money, which I never had, and they walked past me, and which really made me angry and pissed off, as I said. But what happened then is it was really successful. So it's a good product. It turned really well. So my pitch had to change from, look, I'm the only beverage soft drink that is between soft drink and water. Look, the vitamin water is the category is thriving. It's going really well. We have the Swiss vitamin water. So that my pitch had changed, you know, because suddenly I was like, they were like coming in and quickly at our level. Now I guess they're a bit ahead. Well, probably they have a bit more. But they really helped to enlarge the market, you know. They really helped to create awareness. They really helped to get new consumers. And I still think we have the better product, quality-wise, you know, but it's a Swiss product in Switzerland, that's always better. We have no preservatives and all that. So people who learn the category with them because they found it in Coop, eventually they will come to our product. You know? So I see it then from being really pissed at the beginning, I see it as a positive thing. It really helped us to boost the sales also. Right. So sales between 17 and 20 went up much more, like exponentially. Also, I think thanks to those guys.
Nice. So they really helped you to access that hockey stick growth.
Probably, maybe we would also have done it ourselves,
right?
But
maybe even higher. Who knows?
Longer, maybe exactly. You don't really know. Yeah. But I should say we haven't suffered from it. Our curve goes up as well as does theirs. the one suffering is, of course, the classic soft drinks, the Cokes, the Fantas, the Sprites, that no one drinks anymore, right, for all the right reasons.
Yeah. One thing when we look at the support, as you already mentioned, Migros is an important partner, for example. But one thing that really struck with me is that you didn't take on any investors. So you basically, it's you and your co-founder who basically own the company and the people from FocusWater. Why didn't you take any investors on board? And how did you make sure that you were able to finance the production and everything?
Well, it's not quite right. Conrad, in the beginning, he invested a few 100,000, like 200,000 something. And then in 2017, we got an investor for growth. We needed some growth capital. Okay. We sold him like 15%.
Okay.
But very small. I mean, it's a little bit. We got in like $1 million then. Yeah. No. 700,000, whatever. Oh. Yeah. Wow. And but we needed that because the growth, we had to finance the growth, Sure. And once the growth is happening, you easily find investors. But we didn't. Maybe we should have gotten more investors earlier to grow faster. Maybe. You never know. I mean,
but is that
investors is just like you give away. Not only shares, you give away. You have people who as we said in the beginning, I don't like people who tell me what to do. So if you have investors, of course, you have to report. They put money on the table into the company, so you have to deal with them. You have to pamper them. You have to help them. And we just always said, well, we'll go for investors if we need them, if the water is here. But as long as we don't need it, we try to do everything we can to not having to go this way.
But looking back, this is not something that you regret not having brought investors on earlier.
No, I don't think so. If I hadn't sold to Revella, now would have been the time where I would have needed investors because of the hockey stick development,
right?
To finance that.
Yeah. Sure, because for the increasing production, you also need more working capital, right?
So more working capital, but not necessarily investors. I don't know if we had probably rather gone for Fremdkapital to loans,
like
rather get a loan than investors, maybe, because if it's only to finance growth. Sure. It'd be stupid to give it away to investors.
Right. Yeah, let's also quickly talk about the numbers. So in 2017, you achieved your economic breakthrough with 2 million in sales. And then you said that was really like the hockey stick curve that then took off. So in 2018, it was 3 million and 6.5 million in 2019. I think that's a really, really nice growth.
And this year it'll be 10 million.
Wow.
Despite Corona.
Very nice. Yeah, people want to stay healthy, so they drink more vitamin water.
Exactly.
And you're not only active in Switzerland right now, but also in Austria, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Greece, and also in the UK. And then the big thing happened in 2019, right? When you sold FocusWater to Revella. Mm-hmm. Please walk us through how that deal happened. How did that happen and why was it the right time and moment to sell the company?
Well, I know the Revella guys. I've known them for a long time. And they always have these 5-year cycles, I think, where they decide a strategy. And in the last 5-year cycle in 2016 or 17, they're good people. They know what they have to do, and they understand also the soft drinks market is not going to get easier. They understood that they need to do something. They've been trying to innovate themselves a lot, and they still are. And basically, they had then decided we need to innovate, cooperate, or take over companies in order to build the future. Because to build the future only on a soft drink with 40 calories per 100 is a dangerous proposition. So they knew that, and we had been talking all the time. And that they had created a team for that measure, for the cooperation, innovation, and acquisition. And that team had been scouting lots of beverage companies around Switzerland, and they had been innovating and been cooperating. It's called the Chin Chin team. I don't know if you know that, but they have an innovation team. And they had looked at a lot of companies in Switzerland or even external to potentially buy, to acquire. And So we were always in contact, and after we're talking like for over a year. First, there was like they wanted to do something, but it was not as much as we were willing to give it for. I always said, we don't have to sell. We didn't have a need to sell. It was a good situation. I said, look, if the price is right, we can have it. If not. I mean, it doesn't matter. Just so it was a seller's market. It was a seller's market at this point. So. It's much harder to negotiate if you have your water here and you have to sell. Sure. And this, I said, look, from this price I sell and below not. So they eventually came to what we wanted, Conrad and I and the others. After having looked at a lot of companies, and they just said, look, FocusWater is it's a perfect fit for us. You have to ask them why. For a lot of reasons, it's Swiss, it's a category that's thriving. Vitamin water came in, very successful. Everything was, the hockey stick was visible. From that point of view, we were a unique acquisition case, and they knew it. And for us, they were a unique partner. Also, there's only one Rivella in Switzerland. Sure. And that was also a reason why we knew the hockey stick was going to go up. And we all thought, is it too early? Should we wait 2 more years, and sure. triple the volume and then sell for much, much more, But then that was the reason also, one of the reasons was then we would have needed a lot of investors, of external money. We would really have to change the structures here also. This is a little startup company, We really would have to set up a more professional structure, as I said in the beginning. We would have to administrate this business more properly, and do all the right things to get there. And then you don't know, Rivella wouldn't, if you had turned them down, they wouldn't have come again, probably. And then you don't know, is Coke interested to buy a little Swiss vitamin water? Is Nestle interested, So there was lots of things that were not sure that led us to, look, this is the right moment and this is the right time to sell now to this partner that is a unique partner, so the biggest Swiss soft drink producer. He's only in Switzerland too. Of course, there's only one thing I regret. I would have liked to sell to an international partner, to Red Bull, for example, because then our baby would be all over the world. Now now the chances that it's going to be visible in New Zealand someday are smaller than if we had an international partner. That's right. But besides that, it's really a partnership from heaven for all the right reasons, and for us and for them.
Makes sense. And also, if you had, decided to move forward with the growth path, you would have probably had to invest way more time in reportings and number crunching. Not a too attractive outlook, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So you mentioned the sales price that you and Conrad had in mind. What was the number that you were talking about, where you said, this is the price that we are accepting to sell?
We talked about it before, right? The 13 times revenue.
Okay.
No, unfortunately not. We were much more modest. No, I can't communicate any specific numbers, but it was a sales multiple. Let's put it that way. It was a sales multiple, which for this rather conservative Swiss environment and also for Rivella was a big step to take, and that's why we're the more happy that things worked out. The growth path has continued with Rivella. Rivella is super happy to have the product. They're all excited about it. They make our baby bigger now, and eventually they'll pass the vitamin well again.
Yeah, nice. So just to put that into perspective, I know you're not going to say any specific numbers, but then if you think about multiples, 2019, 6.5 million revenue. So you must have sold somewhere between 10 and 20 million probably, or even a bit higher than that.
No, probably not. Probably lower, because it's not the 19 numbers that counted, it's 18 numbers.
Okay, fair point.
Yeah.
So it was between 5 and 10 million approximately.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And what did that also mean for you on a personal level? I mean, suddenly you have, you are able to sell your shares in the company and you have money coming into your bank account. How did that change you as a person?
Not much really. I thought it would change more.
Okay. In what way?
I don't know. It's something you always want, and when you have it, it doesn't really change anything. Well, I was going to go on a sabbatical. I was going to take the motorbike and drive down to Cape Town from Zurich. in January in 3 months, but that's not going to happen now thanks to Corona. So that all those plans have changed. It's going to take a half year off, and really do what I want to do, and that'll have to wait. And of course now from the end of the year, I still have the earnout period is over. I had 2 earnout years, like in 19 and in 20. So instead of going on a motorbike trip, I founded a new company and we'll start something new. Or we have already started a little bit something new. And so things go on. But of course, it gives you're more relaxed maybe. You know that you have the flexibility or the freedom to really do what you want more than before when sometimes you had to oblige to things that you didn't really like. So it gives a bit more freedom even, which I like a lot, So it gives you independence and freedom, and there cannot be enough of that ever.
Right. So you talked about the new project and also said that the full integration will happen at the end of the year. The earnout will be over. So what will your new project be? What will you focus on from next year onwards?
Well, it sounds maybe cheesy, but we will. A friend of mine and we have created a company, and we will launch hard seltzer.
Nice.
Which is the same wave. We're waiting for the wave. We're hoping for the wave. We think the wave will come, and when it comes, we want to be there. So we're waxing the surfboard right now. And soon going to get out in January. We're going to go out on the water and then see what happens. So that's just the opportunity that we think it's a pretty unique opportunity now, and we want to see if it works. Sure. We are in the process on the weekends and the evenings, of course, to create a brand, to create the content, and to build something that we can then start really working with in January.
Yeah. So really an entrepreneur at heart, from one startup to the next.
Yeah, at this point, it seems like that, But things just happen, As I said, I stumble into things. There's no master plan. It's just like Africa was off, this is coming, and we just said, this partner of mine, he said, well, let's create a company, let's do it. I said, yeah, sure, let's do it, And then you jump. And that's a bit something that I guess that happened all the time, There is like a path in the career in what I've done, and it all makes sense. But still, it all seems like it all happened, but it all kind of it follows each. There's a continuity in it, but then in the everyday, it's a lot of spontaneous decisions and reactions.
Right. Cool. So now we covered the story from, the Red Bull days, the early days, to the Rivella exit, basically, with FocusWater. And to wrap up this episode, I have some rapid fire questions prepared for you. I give you a choice of 2 or 3 options, and you have to make one choice. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And also, don't forget to quickly explain in one sentence, if possible, why you made the choice. So let's start. Red Bull or FocusWater?
FocusWater.
Clear choice.
Because it's my baby. Red Bull was my good friend that I followed a lot, and Focus is my baby.
And if you had to choose between Rivella and FocusWater?
FocusWater, for the same reason.
Yeah, makes sense. Online or offline marketing?
Offline, because I'm old. No, but of course I'm not a digital native, and I mean, the online marketing is super exciting and what you can do with it and all, but it is less real. It's like drinking a beverage or talking about it, So the real life interaction, I still think the beverage industry is important because it's a real life thing that goes down your throat, and so it's nothing that's online. Beverage is offline per definition.
Right. And the next one, local champion or international niche player?
That's a good one. I wouldn't know. I mean, we were now the local champion, of course. Probably I would find it more interesting to be an international niche player. I think that's cooler somehow, but local champion is good too.
Probably also because now you did the local champion game and now you want to do something that you haven't done, right?
Maybe, yeah, exactly. Maybe.
And the last one for you, you have Swedish roots, but you grew up and live in Switzerland, so Sweden or Switzerland?
Switzerland. I mean, I've been here all my life. I'm very, very happy about my Swedish roots. My genes are there. My parents are still there too, some of them. but my hometown is Zurich and not Stockholm.
Got it. But Stockholm is still a great visit
Still
for
a
summer,
great town,
right?
and Sweden is a great country and great people, and they make great products also. But here's my home, and no question. I prefer also the mountains to the ocean.
Fair point. Leif, thank you so much for sharing your story, your impressive story with us today. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we wish you all the best with the successful integration and the new venture that's coming up.
Thank you very much.
Now that you've finished listening to the episode, why not top it off with a quick rating on Apple Podcasts? It's one of the best things that you can do to help us reach more entrepreneurs just like you.